Olga Stefanishyna, Ukraine's ambassador to the United States, welcome to DW. Madam Ambassador, the holidays are coming up, so my question, where and how are you planning to spend Thanksgiving this year?
Well, I'm spending this day in the United States, where Thanksgiving is originally a very important celebration. But as a Ukrainian, my thoughts are elsewhere. But I do hope that for all the Americans, including the President of the United States and many other people who are now having a decisive roles in terms of ending the war.
Do you know if you are spending this day in Washington, D.C. or somewhere in Florida?
Well, Florida is a great place, but at this point I'm at D.C.
The reason I'm asking is because it was initially planned that President Zelensky could meet with President Trump in Florida, where the American president will be celebrating and spending his Thanksgiving with his family. When is President Trump meeting with President Zelensky at this point? Do we know?
Well, this is like a process in action. So things are very dynamically changing. It's very important to us that this dynamic is very high and productive. So, and the meeting is the decision which will be taken at specific points. So, as you know, while we're talking, we have talks which are being completed at the Abu Dhabi, and just now, President of the United States has announced that he's sending Special Envoy Witkoff to engage with President Putin directly. So, and as it has always been, Ukraine is committed to whatever effort would be needed to end the war. So this will be the formula under which Ukraine will remain a sovereign, independent country.
You just mentioned the Army Secretary of the United States. He's coming to Kyiv soon, while Mr. Witkoff is on the way to Moscow. Is Driscoll playing a new role as a new special envoy of the United States on Ukraine since Keith Kellogg is retiring?
Well, I don't think this is something to be compared at all, because Secretary Driscoll remains as a secretary of the army, and basically he has opened up the ability for American senior leadership to travel to Ukraine just to gather first-hand information about the military situation. And as you know, he has built entire drone innovation line and policy based also on Ukrainian experience. So he has been involved in Ukraine for quite a period of time, but now he has this new enhanced role as the negotiator. And we're really confident that it's good that he came to Kyiv. He spent time with the Ukraine military leadership. He had all the briefings and information, but also he was one of the negotiators over the meetings in Geneva, and he was in Abu Dhabi. So he has the whole spectrum of information, including the whole military readouts. So he could not be misled with this, Russian speculations about almighty Russian army, heroically dying in hundreds of thousands on the front lines. So this is very important. He has a very strong professional stand. He has the most senior military position in the U.S. Army, as you can imagine. So I think it's a good new player in this framework.
So what plan is Secretary Driscoll bringing to Kyiv? Is it a 28-point plan, 19-point plan, or a completely new plan that Mr. Yermak just offered? What is he bringing?
There was a set of arrangements formed after Geneva. There's something that we can really confirm. There's some things to be further discussed with Europeans. There are some things there was a lot of speculation about this point on amnesty, and I can definitely say that it is not part of this 19 points. So this point is not there, because it's extremely arguable, and it's an issue about justice, and there were a lot of multiple misinterpretations. So on this basis, a lot of discussions were taking place in Abu Dhabi, and Secretary Driscoll will follow up these conversations.
So what does the absence of this point mean to Ukraine and to Russia? Will Russia be held accountable for its actions in Ukraine?
Well, now at this particular moment, when all eyes on every public comment, Ukraine, American officials are making, are there, and just while we're expecting for public reaction from Russian administration on the plan, I would not really go further into that. But I think this point has caused a lot of speculations and misreading, and it's very important that it's not there. And it evolved after the conversations and negotiations led by Ukrainian delegation in Geneva. So this has not been subjected to discussion in Abu Dhabi at all.
So again, the point about total amnesty for Russia and Ukraine is out of play.
Yes, yes.
Senior Ukrainian official describes what happened in Geneva as a dramatic breakthrough. How do you assess the results of the Geneva talks this time?
Well, I think I would put it like I would do assessment on both sides. First, it was not just another round of talks. It was a delegation formed by a decree of the president. It was formalized. So President's chief of office, Andriy Yermak, was leading the delegation, and it was a very concrete setting of people having specific roles. But what is now less important, that on U.S. side, the delegation was very powerful. So we had the Secretary of State Rubio present, Secretary of Army present, Jared Kushner present, Special Envoy Witkoff present, and a wider group of people, and also Deputy NSA Andy Baker, who has been, putting a lot of glue behind the things on a regular basis. So these were two powerful delegations. Both delegations, like Ukrainian delegation and American delegation, had full mandates from their presidents to work in a constructive way round the clock on something that would really be acceptable and could be equalized to the just peace. And it has happened so. So less than 24 hours after the delegation started to work, we have heard and saw public statement on both sides, on Ukraine and also on US side, that parties reached a good set of arrangements. So I've told you about the amnesty point. I also know that there is a number of points to be discussed with European allies about the frozen assets and other elements about, for example, NATO membership. There's also a set of things which is not related to ending the war, but it's rather more about relations with Russia, U.S. relations with Russia. So there was a lot of progress. But what I heard from our delegation, from the head of delegation and the team working around the document, that there was a lively interest in going through every element of 28 points and just see how many traps were there put in by Russians in terms of possibility of misinterpretation, or double interpretation. So, and I think this was also a useful experience for both sides. And we're happy that it's not only evolved in a good outcome, but now, based on the Geneva talks, based on the mandates from two presidents, it's been continued in Abu Dhabi, and it's not over. So now teams are heading to Moscow. This is a dialogue which have been taking place before. Witkoff have been to Moscow, and it evolved in everything we saw. But also we have a new, very important party to this process on U.S. side, Secretary Driscoll, and he's heading to Kyiv to spend another 2 days there, just working around the clock, to seal the deal to extent it's possible.
There is a big question in Kyiv on whether President Zelensky should meet with President Trump one-on-one before this trilateral meeting, possible trilateral meeting that President Trump is talking about. You are in touch with your counterparts in the State Department and in the White House. What signals are you hearing from them? Do they think that they must sit down beforehand?
Well, there is a very dynamic environment, so everything is really dramatically changing every 24 hours. But I think I would identify two moments here. First, we have a so-called diplomatic surge in events that are happening, and there is like a commitment to work 24/7 round the clock, and we have a regular engagement at different levels on working on a plan and on a potential trilateral meeting. So there are like no parallel tracks. There's like only one track from US side. This is the whole team you saw in Geneva. This is the most senior and wide American delegation we ever saw engaged with Ukraine, but also in resolution of whatever scope of issues. We also saw that Jared Kushner was there. He was one of the key players in recent events in Gaza settlement. So we have the whole team working together. And finally, we have a clarity in engagement, the dynamics, and whatever the moment would come. And two of our presidents, President of the United States and President of Ukraine, would have to engage to finalize some of the conversations between them. It would not be a question, I'm sure.
You've already participated in a bilateral meeting between President Zelensky and President Trump in New York. We spoke with you right after. So take me to the room with you. What is the dynamic between them? Because we've seen President Trump bounce back and forth from he's a nice guy to you don't have the cards and back. So when the cameras are off, how do they communicate?
Well, I think every time the meeting were taking place, first it was frank, it was open, and I think this is the basis for having the results. So first, after the meeting in New York, we immediately engaged in discussions about the long range, about the capabilities we can get. Of course, we're not speaking only on tomahawks, about wider amount of things. And also after the meeting in Washington, it was my president and also President Trump first ever said that we are ready to talk about stopping on the existing line. So that speaks about the very fact that both sides have enough trust in this conversation so that they could really step up and make a decision afterwards.
Recently, President Trump accused the Ukrainian side of not being grateful enough for what he has done to Ukraine to end this Russia's war, unprovoked war. Let me ask you, are you grateful for what President Trump is doing right now?
Well, I'm grateful to God that I am alive. I'm grateful to God that it's not only me, but all the family around me is alive. And I'm grateful to God that President Trump is a president of the United States who has made one of his biggest commitment is ending the war to Ukraine. Whatever we have to do as an entire nation, and every American who supports that should really be targeted to back up this commitment. But I think, from what I think, it's very important that there is like a very right moral standing here, and it's not the last thing which really important for U.S. officials here. So we are grateful for this dialogue and for everything which has been done to help our nation to survive as a sovereign state. But I think what's happening next is very important, and we are backing up any efforts which is coming from the United States to the extent we can.
Ambassador Stefanishyna, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mikhailo.